When it comes to popular online reviewers, I think the one YouTuber that comes to everyone's mind has to be the Nostalgia Critic. Now, I think you would be very hard-pressed to find someone who hasn't at least heard of the Nostalgia Critic before, since at one point, he was one of the most popular reviewers on the internet. Nowadays, he has sort of become a joke within our current internet culture, being featured in many memes, and having some unpopular opinions that Twitter just won't shut up about. Like, oh my god, we get it. He had a weird opinion a few years ago. Please, for everything that is good in this world, shut up and go touch grass. But something that Nostalgia Critic has become infamous for in recent years has got to be his many side projects. The first few projects that come to mind are usually the 3 films that Channel Awesome produced back in the early 2010s. These 3 films being Caucasia, Suburban Nights, and To Boldly Flee. Now, to make a really long review short, these films are pretty bad. They are way too long, the production quality is bad, the jokes drag on for ages, and to put it simply, they are just boring. I guess it was cool to see all these big creators in one video, and we can even see some familiar faces, like Lindsay Ellis, Angry Joe, Phelan Portis, and never mind. Now, the most important film out of this boring trilogy has to be To Boldly Flee. Now, to spare you all from this 3.5-hour film? That's longer than Avatar, what the fuck?
You can't keep getting away with it!
At the end of the movie, Doug Walker decides to kill off the Nostalgia Critic, since he was sort of getting tired of the character and wanted to move on to bigger and greater projects. The final Nostalgia Critic episode would be a review of the live-action adaptation of Scooby-Doo, which premiered on the 14th of August, 2012. Now, this was of course a massive letdown to the fans of the series, since the only reason they would go to Channel Awesome was to watch Nostalgia Critic. But Doug Walker would promise his fans that they were working on more ambitious projects, and that Channel Awesome would be heading into a new era. The first project was a game show called Pop Quiz Hot Shots, which apparently cost $90,000 to produce, yet it looks like something a group of children would make. Anyone else have a feeling this show was a money laundering scheme between Mike Machad and Doug Walker, or is that just me?
I have so much cash on hand that I actually counted by weighing it on my bathroom scale, and yet I can't spend it.
And there was another series produced by Doug Walker and his brother Rob Walker that they had wanted to produce for years. A series that they claimed was the most anticipated show on the internet. And this series would end up being Demo Reel. Now, this series was a massive passion project between the two Walkers. Doug had always wanted to produce a series that would either parody or make fun of Hollywood, and Channel Awesome was really serious about this show. They had bought out an entire office space for filming, and would even hire union actors to join the cast, with the 2 main actors being Malcolm Ray and Rachel Tiaz. So on October 30th, 2012, the series would finally make its grand debut. And what did the fans think of it?
Well, that was a load of shit.
Yeah, so people hated Demo Reel. Like, they really hated Demo Reel. Some were calling it the worst internet show they had ever seen. The show failed so terribly that Channel Awesome was losing money with the series. The show would only last for 6 episodes before being cancelled in January 2013. It was so bad that in order to make up for the financial loss of Demo Reel, Doug would officially bring back the Nostalgia Critic character after only a 6-month hiatus. Now, there are plenty of people discussing the downfall of Nostalgia Critic and the entire Channel Awesome controversy, but I don't really see a lot of people making videos on Demo Reel and why it failed so spectacularly. So in today's video, I watched every episode of Demo Reel to see what exactly went wrong with the series and if all of its hate is justified. Now, before I dive deep into the series, I want to make it crystal clear that I am not attacking Doug Walker or anyone involved in the series. I immensely respect Doug Walker, and I am not attacking him whatsoever. So get ready folks, we are about to enter into some nostalgic territory. I actually want to kill myself after that joke. Now, before I dive deep into the series, I should probably explain what it's about first. The series follows a filmmaker named Donnie Dupre, who produces remakes of iconic movies with his amateur crew in an attempt to get the attention of Hollywood. His crew members are Rebecca, a struggling actress who is incredibly obnoxious by the way, Tacoma, the writer and the only person with common sense in the series, and the 2 mysterious camera operators, Carl Copenhagen and Quinn, who is, get this, an Irishman who might have worked for the IRA.
My name is Quinn, and I didn't work for the IRA, and I ain't gonna answer any questions you got for me.
Wow, such fantastic Irish representation. I feel so valid right now. Thank you, Doug, for representing the Irish people this way. Now that setup doesn't sound too bad, right? With good writing and a good crew, this idea could translate into a really good series. But unfortunately, Doug Walker didn't have any of those. The first thing I noticed with this series is just how awful the production quality is. With how much money and effort was put into this series, you would expect that the show's quality would reflect that, right? But instead, we get some of the most amateur filmmaking I have ever seen. I'm not a filmmaker by any means, but I'd like to think that I did a better job in my older videos where I literally sat down and played GTA 3. My biggest issue with the filmmaking here is just how terrible the camera is. Oftentimes, the framing and angles feel very cramped and amateur. Like, how did Doug look at some of these shots and be like, oh yeah, this looks good? There's also these segments where they go for this black and white mockumentary style of filmmaking, and even though it's meant to be a parody of documentaries, the camera work is somehow worse here, since it's so obvious that whoever is operating the camera is literally just holding it with no effort to make the shots look interesting or unique. Also, the lighting in a lot of scenes just looks so bad. Like, was it so hard for them to just use natural lighting? Again, I am no expert at filmmaking, but surely they could have just opened a window to let some light in? Or maybe they could have gone for actual lighting stands? You could make the argument that early Nostalgia Critic episodes were not really that high quality per se, but they weren't really meant to be high quality. Old Nostalgia Critic was literally just some weird guy talking about some bad movies. This series, however, is meant to be somewhat professional, yet it comes off as a series that was created by some teenagers who had never touched a camera before in their lives.
I just wanna fuck a dude.
Something else that really bugs me is how bad the audio is. Apparently the place they filmed at was not really equipped for filmmaking, so this left the audio to be very echoey and just bad. Like, could they really not have just used a boom mic? Isn't that meant to be filmmaking 101? If you want good audio quality, then don't use the mic from the camera. Use a boom mic. Also, they use a lot of green screen here, which I guess makes sense given the context of the main characters being filmmakers. But most of the time, the green screening just looks super lazy and very bad. I understand that working with green screens can be a massive pain sometimes, but is it so hard to at least make the green screens look somewhat decent? Another aspect of the series that really bugs me is just how unfunny it is. Half the jokes are just references to movies, and the other half are characters being really annoying. The majority of the humor comes from the acting, and I will be nice and say that the acting is pretty solid. The new actors here bring a lot to the table, and you can definitely tell that they are very experienced when it comes to acting. Only issue is that Doug didn't really do a good job on directing them. The two main actors seem to have a decent understanding of their characters, but Doug is just all over the place here. It kind of feels like Doug gave them really poor direction, and they were just very confused on what they needed to convey. But they did really try, and I do respect that. Speaking of which, the characters are not really that good, to be honest. Like I said earlier, the acting isn't awful, but the way Doug wrote and directed these characters just ruins them for me. Like, they try to paint the main character Donnie as this terrible, egotistical person, which could work if handled in a funny and clever way. Take a look at It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, for example. The main characters are nothing but terrible, awful people, but we love them for how awful they are. But with Demo Reel, their attempts at making Donnie a fun, unlikable character just comes off as annoying and super hard to watch. Plus, all the other characters are either bland or just annoying stereotypes. Like, I sure do love Quinn, an Irishman who might be connected to the IRA. Get it? It's funny because he's Irish. I am laughing so hard right now. Ha 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 ha. But yeah, most of the characters are just really bland or annoying, and they barely left an impact on me. They also love to drag out jokes for ages. Like, if it's unfunny once, it probably won't be funny the second, or third, or fourth time. I know Doug claims that comedy is only funny when misery is involved, and that is actually right to an extent. Since I feel constant pain and misery when watching this terrible piece of shit! Hey everyone, I'm very sorry for my blow up there. I got a bit too angry there. I think I need to lay down for a few minutes and think about what I've just done. In the meantime, I found this random guy in the streets who really wants to talk about demo reel for some reason, so take it away, random stranger.
I'll take it from here, Zach. Hello amigos, Ramen coming at ya. Let's talk about demo reel. Demo reel at first was presented as Doug's passion project. After giving up the Nostalgia Critic, demo reel's goal was to take movie properties and make them better, while also telling a narrative within a review. While that all sounds like a great idea, the execution was not good. Sometimes the lighting wouldn't be right, sound quality would be bad, the writing and jokes will fall flat, and this all stems from Doug himself. Doug was trying to move away from being a reviewer who critiques media to being a person who creates his own media. But to make any type of media, whether it be film or a short, you have to have great characters you care about, and an interesting story. You also need a world that can draw viewers in. Demo reel has none of that. The only characters that seem to be grounded in reality are Malcolm and Rachel. Doug's character Donnie Dupre, yeah, just because you wear a hat doesn't mean you're a different character, Doug. Come on. As I was saying, Doug's character Donnie Dupre seems really overacted, almost like he's a cartoon. The other side characters aren't any good either, like Jim's character or Rob Walker's character. If I had to say a few good things about demo reel is that Malcolm and Rachel seem to be trying more than Doug, and some of the camera work is really good. That's all I can say. The episode with Uncle Yo and Doug is pretty good, mostly because Doug and Uncle Yo are having a conversation. That's all I can say. That's like the one good episode in this show.
Just send that word of mouth my way by any chance, that'd be great. I could get more people to look at demo reel, that'd be wonderful.
If you make them laugh afterward, they come back to you all the time.
I think they laugh, but not for the right reasons.
I wish I could say I laughed once, but Doug's writing, or at least his writing back then, seems so forced. Most jokes in demo reel are usually beaten to the ground before they even have a chance to be funny. Or maybe the joke is repeated like 3 times. I mean, Doug, the rule of 3 is key. Every comedian knows that. Overall, I can't believe Zach got me to talk about demo reel again. This show is pure torture. Me and Timothy Reviews suffered enough.
So, did you watch it?
Oh, yeah, I watched it, and it was horrible.
I warned you, dude. I warned you.
Thank you, Zach Quinn, for letting me on this video, but I'm never doing this again. My name is Ramen. You have a good night.
Okay, I'm back and I'm feeling slightly better now. Now, to prevent myself from going insane again, I will like to talk about some parts of the show that I don't hate. Kind of. I do like it when they don't try to tell a million jokes all at once, and instead they let the characters just be normal people and have a normal talk. Moments like Rebecca and Tacoma just sitting on a couch talking about their family lives, or when Doug and Egoraptor get drunk in a hotel room and just talk about movies feels so real and genuine to me that I actually enjoyed watching them. But sadly, the show just doesn't have a lot of these moments. So most of the time, we're stuck with a lot of unfunny gags that can just be so unbearable to watch. I will say that some of the jokes can be kind of somewhat funny. Not all of them, like you'll be lucky to find one funny joke in one episode, but occasionally the series can be a bit funny, like a tiny bit funny. But most of the time, I was just forcing myself to get through the series. Despite it only being 6 episodes long, it felt like an eternity. There were many points where I was just so confused as to what was happening, and also wondering just how anyone behind this project thought it was good. I do believe that Doug Walker is a great guy, and even a good comedian, but you can tell that he's kind of an amateur filmmaker. This is something that has been widely known for ages, but Doug is kind of incompetent when it comes to filmmaking. I will say that he has kind of improved over the years, and the newer Nostalgia Critic episodes do look pretty good. But with this series, it comes off as him attempting to show off his filmmaking side and prove to everyone that he can do so much more than just the Nostalgia Critic. But when demo reel released and failed spectacularly, he had no other choice but to return to his roots. It's a shame really, since the finale to demo reel, The Review Must Go On, is actually kind of good. Sure, the production quality is still not the best, and jokes do drag on for way too long, but there's something about it that I just can't help but admire. The episode is about the real-life Doug Walker being haunted by the Nostalgia Critic, and debating if he should return or not. It's such a fascinating episode, and I think it shows off that Doug Walker is capable of producing something that is actually kind of good. But once the Nostalgia Critic returned, Demo Reel officially ended, which on one hand could be a good thing, since this series is just a complete mess that I could barely finish. But at the same time, I find Demo Reel to be very fascinating. It was Doug Walker's attempt to move on to something that wasn't just the Nostalgia Critic. He had so much hope for this series, only for that hope to be shattered once everyone started hating the series. In conclusion, while Demo Reel may have had lots of passion put into it, it ended up becoming this boring, lazy, and unfunny mess of a show. I wouldn't even recommend it for a so bad it's good series, because nothing about it is really enjoyable. It's just bad. It does have a few good moments here and there that I kind of liked, but all in all, it's just really bad. Honestly, just go watch Modern Nostalgia Critic instead. I know the newer episodes are hit or miss, but I can assure you that you'll get way more enjoyment out of the infamous wall video than this series. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Special thanks to Ramen for joining me in this video and talking about how bad this series is, and make sure to check out his videos on his channel. He makes some really good videos that I would highly recommend you all check out. Also, Doug, if you're watching this, I just want to say that I love you, bro, and you should totally hire me as like an editor or something. I even dressed up as Nostalgia Critic for Halloween. Clearly, I am your biggest fan.
Please notice me, Doug.